Guys, clip farming time. Not really clip farming, but more of a story time. So I dreamt of the end of the world. It was in my dreams. When I first went into this dream, I saw like this little vision, this little thing. You know, like the forecast for the news. You know how they have like the map. I saw a map similar to that, and I saw that like everything was gonna be destroyed like through like bombs and missiles and shit. So the dream started out normally. I was in my house. Both of my parents were just chilling. We were just there. I don't really remember what happened during that period of time when nothing serious really happened. I just remember that we were there. And then this is not really relevant to the story, but it happened, so I'm just gonna mention it. So we saw on our cameras these like group of kids throwing shit at our house. This is out of character for me. Typically I'm not confrontational, but I opened the door, and when I opened the door, it was like stop. You know the little like things, like the little locks, like the old ones that you put that has like a chain. Well, it's kind of like a door stopper. It's like the old style locks. It doesn't really matter. So I couldn't fully open it all the way, and again it just didn't make sense for me to have that. I was screaming at these kids. I remember saying something along the lines of like, I'll kill you. I remember they started to approach the house, and as they were approaching the house, like one of the girls in the group like started opening a cup. I don't remember what the cup was. It looked like a Stanley cup, because you know every girl has a Stanley cup nowadays. She started opening the cup to throw water at me, so I closed the door, and then they started like banging on the door, and then I checked like the front porch camera. One of the guys was stabbing the door, and again, it's not really relevant. They left, but as soon as they left, before I have to mention this, there was a construction going on. That's really important. There was construction going on, and as soon as they left, this like I thought it was a UPS truck pulled into our driveway. Now we kind of have to suspend disbelief like real quick, because it was a big ass truck. Like it was a huge ass truck. This truck doesn't exist in real life. It doesn't. But it was really huge, and again, I thought in my dream I perceived it as a UPS truck, but then it wasn't. It had the color of one. It pulled into a driveway, but it was more of like, you know when like a car goes into an empty driveway to switch to like they're driving, and they're like, oh never mind, I shouldn't be here, so they just go into an empty driveway to just go out the other area. It did something like that, but it just did it to park in front of the house in front of ours. But again, it was this big ass. So again, you kind of have to suspend disbelief, because realistically speaking, this truck would not fit in our neighborhood. We live in a small hood. So again, in my dream, normal occurrence, I didn't think nothing of it. For some reason, I just remember like all of us, like me, my mom, my dad, being outside of the house. Again, we were inside, we were just chilling. Now we're outside. So there was like a time skip or something. So we were outside. My dad was like near the garden. Obviously, I don't know what my house looks like, and I'm not gonna show you. It was like in the garden, and then there was a garden, and then I was kind of like right here. I don't know if you can see it, like where like you would walk. Again, you just have to kind of visualize it if you can. And then my mom was sitting in the bench near the door outside. As I was just standing there, we saw another big ass truck. It's one of them trucks that like carries plane parts, like big ass planes. And we saw this fighter jet. Well, I saw this fighter jet on top of this. Now again, realistically speaking, this truck should not be able to fit in our neighborhood. It was huge, and this fighter jet was like, it wasn't as big as an actual plane, but it was in between a fighter jet size and a plane size. It was a huge fighter jet. Realistically speaking, it's impractical, but it looked cool, and also it was scary. And then around the same time that I saw that, we started hearing like fighter jet sounds, and then we heard the fucking stock sound of the nuclear siren. Now obviously I probably would have found it funny if it was in real life, because it was a stock sound. But again, in my dream, for some reason I didn't think much of it. I mean, I was kind of scared. One thing not to mention, typically I'm good at picking out when I'm having a dream. Not a single point until I actually woke up that I realized it was a dream. This is like new to me. I'm usually good at picking that up. You know, this is the first time that happens, but whatever. So this happened rather quickly. So let me explain it as best as I possibly can. As this was happening, I walked into like I then walked into where the bench is at, where my mom was at, and to the right of her house, we see like the truck that I saw from earlier, the UPS truck. Now it's a different color. It's gray. Have you ever seen them like vehicles that have like missiles on them? Like, you know, like the ones that like lift up and they have a missile. So out of nowhere, it became one of those. Now the box that contained the missile was too huge to even be practical in a car. I don't even think a truck could handle a box of that size. You know, it wasn't extremely huge, but it was bigger than it really should have been. Probably 2 times a house size, and typically it would be smaller if it was a realistic missile. Well, there was a missile came out of it, right? And then just turned around and just striked us down. And that's it, like it killed us. But instead of immediately waking up, I was like in this room, right? I was in this room right? It was this dark room, and it's really hard to explain it. In the dream, I perceived it as me being in this room, and I was laying down on a couch. I perceived it as a couch. Sometimes there's knowledge that you have in a dream that doesn't really make sense. Like how the hell will you know that? I was just like laying down like this. I was just kind of just like laying down like this, just motionless. And there was just a little bit of light. A little bit of light. And then out of nowhere, I just heard 3, 2, 1, nothingness. So for a good couple of seconds, there was nothing. And then I started to hear this, like, you know, the horror TikTok music. It just sounds like man. This is like just a group of choir of men just singing in a non-English, right? It's used for like TikTok horror shit. That's what I heard. And then I finally logged in and realized that I was having a dream, and I woke up. But yeah, that was a crazy ass dream.